Alright, this is Robert reporting for Republic Rising, the redheaded stepchild of Infowars.com. And so I was reading something today out of the National Review that you can see right here called Conservatives Can Win by Watching Their Words. And this article brought up a very valid point, and this was written a couple years ago, as you can see, back in January 2016 by DeRoy Murdoch. And the point he brings up in this, obviously, is there's a war of words between the right and the left. And the left is currently winning that war, I'd say. It's because we keep trying to play their game of words, and it screws us. And a great example they have is almost like leading off right the bat, right up here. Let's see. If Bonnie and Clyde were alive today, they'd stop calling themselves bank robbers and instead introduce themselves as financial asset removal specialists. Unfortunately, Republicans and conservatives would then start using that exculpatory mouthful to describe these legendary thieves. And I thought that was so true, because it is the type of thing that happens again and again with the right, where we get stuck within the linguistic paradox that the left live in and trying to defeat their arguments, because usually, and this is obviously in vague generalities I'm speaking, when the right talk within politics, and I believe there was an article written recently on that one too, do I have it up? Yeah, I think it was The Atlantic wrote it, but they're talking about how when the left speak about politics and the right speak about politics, they talk about two completely different things in the words they use. Where the rights will be more towards, it seemed like, a fact-based reality, to where they'll talk about like the actual sex, the gender, they'll talk about the immigration, the policies, and all that stuff. Whereas the left are more towards just the ideas. They just kind of they talk in the vague generalities, that they don't get down to the bare nuts and bolts, and that if you're going to speak in that two contrasting different forms, you're never really going to be able to have a legit conversation to get anywhere. So one thing that obviously reminded me of greatly was Mr. Saul Alinsky. And he was obviously the Marxist radical from back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. He died in the early 70s after he wrote his last work, Rules for Radicals. And his game of what they play is what I like to call is kind of like the Alinsky Code, or lib-speak, is how these leftists work into, where he was very big on the linguistics that you use can actually be very powerful. And there was an article written by Phyllis Schlafly in a World News Daily magazine that I like to get. It's called Whistleblower. And Phyllis Schlafly, obviously, she's a lawyer and a conservative political analyst, so you kind of know where she's going to be coming from. She's on the right. Alinsky's far left, being the Marxist radical he is. But she breaks them down like this, and I think I'm going to pull a couple little bit out of this. And it's Alinsky's worldview was that mankind is divided into three parts: the haves, the have-nots, and the have-a-little want-mores. His purpose was to teach the have-nots how to take power and money away from the haves by creating mass organizations to seize power. And he frankly admitted that, quote, this means revolution. And obviously, he wanted a radical change of America's social and economic structure, and he planned to achieve that through creating public discontent and moral confusion. Alinsky developed strategies to achieve power through mass organization, and organizing was his word for revolution. And the organizers, I'm going to stumble over my own words here. And to achieve his goals, he sought local community organizers who projected confidence and vision as well as change. And obviously one of his disciples was Barack Obama, which I would say he fit Alinsky's bill to a T. Because a couple of the keys that Alinsky wanted you to have in order to be it, the qualities he called for, was you need to obviously have an ego, and she goes into detail of which he specifically means here, but it was you got to have ego, you got to have curiosity, you got to have irreverence, and a sense of humor. And I'll tip it to Obama. He's got that. I mean, he can speak, and he does it with confidence to where you believe that he believes what he's talking about, even though it's a crock of shit. But she goes on to say, the organizer must, quote, rub raw the resentments of the people of the community, fan the latent hostilities of many of the people to the point of overt expression. An organizer must stir up dissatisfaction and discontent. So that brings me to the point of, obviously, what his greatest weapon was, not only in the words, but as these community organizers, is what he likes to call them. And a great breakdown of the community organizers in the same Whistleblower magazine they talk about is, they say, formerly known as outside agitators, is a community organizer is one who rallies an army to clamor for more welfare, government regulation, handouts aimed at income redistribution. Think of them as urban guerrillas with weapons for deadlier than guns. And that's so true, because you see all these people and they stand out there with you. It seems best of intent in front of your Walmarts or whatever the busy malls, strip malls you got and all that stuff. You know, just sign this real quick. So we can increase your taxes just a little bit, but we're going to help the handicapped here. We're going to increase the social welfare program over here. We're going to increase that over there. And it's they just ever so encroach on our freedoms and our liberties by taking a little bit of money. Every time they say we just want to raise a little bit of taxes for this right here, that's them saying, hey, give us a little bit of more of your money that you clearly don't want. You won't spend the right way in society, that you need to give to somebody to have a government official spend in your name a better way. See, even I get twisted in my mind trying to wrap my head around the liberal think. And one of the community organizing groups that Obama came out of, and was one of what Alinsky would be proud of, was a company called ACORN, which they were the Association for Community Organizations, or Reform Now. And ACORN, if you remember, had big-time problems thanks to Mr. James O'Keefe, who I'm a huge fan of, and him and Project Veritas. They uncover some great stuff. But what he was able to do is go into these community organizers meetings and all that, and he actually went in claiming that he was a pimp and he had a prostitute with it, and he wanted to talk to these community organizers to see how he could use them to avoid certain tax loopholes and all that stuff. And they would also teach him how to avoid cops and all that stuff. And they did a great breakdown of it. You can see on his website right here on Project Veritas of the Acorn investigation, where they got all these places they went to: Baltimore, D.C., New York, San Bernardino, San Diego, L.A., Philly, a lot in California, huh? And it's the breakdowns to where there's the prostitution investigation, the stings that they did, and it's incredible that this is able to go on still. It's even though technically Acorns isn't really around anymore, but all they really did is change their name. And this was another one of the big-time George Soros organizations that he loved to work with. But James O'Keefe, I thought, did great in breaking them down and exposing them for who they truly are. But this is going to be part one of a series that I'm going to be doing, just talking about the Alinsky Code and how the leftists use linguistics to change society, because if they can get you to change your words, they'll get you to change your actions and your thoughts. It's very deceptive and powerful. So don't forget to stop by Infowars.com store, get some awesome flags like that right there, get your bumper stickers, get your amazing apparel, get your health products. They got it all, man. This is Robert Manley reporting for Republic Rising, my own thing. And also, I'm the redheaded stepchild of Infowars.com. But you guys have yourselves a good one. And there's the Acorn investigation once again. And logging off with Infowars.